Welcome to the first of a series of videos demonstrating the use of the Purchase Order Create screen. This will be an introduction to the screen, help us get around the screen. Detailed topics will be covered in other videos in this series. So let's get right to it. Accessing the Order Create screen is done through the menu, Purchasing menu, Create Purchase Order. Once the screen is loaded, it will do nothing for you until a vendor has been selected. I can either enter the vendor or select the vendor from a list of suppliers. But once the supplier is selected, now the screen lights up and becomes a lot more exciting. Next thing I need to do is let this application know what type of order or what mode I'll be ordering in, either return orders or purchase orders. And then finally, I need to let it know what method in which it'll be creating the order or calculating the order points. I have an array of order methods to choose from, many of which are about ordering up to stocking levels, but I also have some sales forecast, day fill, and some write-in order types. We'll cover each one of them briefly. The first tab that's illuminated when the order point method is selected is the criteria tab. This is pretty common for many of the order types. On this tab, I have the ability to stipulate the criteria used to select the parts that will be evaluated to be ordered. This grid here is loaded with the details from the supplier line codes screen. So everything that's in that screen is loaded on here as the supplier is loaded up. If I make additional changes to this, those changes are specific to this purchase order only and do not affect the stored values in the supplier order specific screen. More details on this grid can be found in another video specific for this grid. The All Lines checkbox here allows you to indicate whether or not this order will be for all lines in the store or just the lines in this list. When this checkbox is not checked, the lines and sublines in this grid are include lines, meaning only parts that match the criteria of this grid will be included in the order. When the All Lines checkbox is checked, this becomes an exclusion list. Now anything in this grid will be a filter to exclude parts from. Additionally, I can stipulate other selection criteria that is across the board. So if I put a value in the order type of XXX, this is suggesting that only parts with a value of XXX in the order type field of the part record will be eligible or evaluated for order in this purchase order, regardless of all of the line codes in here. Additionally, I can change this to exclude. Now I can say I want to exclude all parts with XXX in the order type. I have the same flexibility for all of these different filters, including the subline line code. What's really interesting is the sales class. If I want to order only parts that are my fast-moving parts, I can enter multiple, up to 3 sales classes and set this to only, and now only my fast movers will be ordered. Conversely, if I want to order all parts from the lines that are in this grid, but stay away from my slower moving parts, I can set up the sales classes and then tell it to exclude them. The designation is a designation on the part record. If a part is designated with a primary supplier of WBW and I set this to primary, then that part will be eligible for this order. Let's move on to the Options tab. The Options tab is set up and populated based on the order method. All of the defaults are read in based on store settings and settings on the supplier order specific screen. If I'm happy with all the defaults, I can leave this all alone. However, for this particular order, if I would like to override any of the defaults, I can do that here. Again, these changes will only affect this order and will not be saved in the supplier order specific screen. These switches are all available for the order, again, for this particular order. And these switches will change based on the order method. Only the switches that are applicable to that type of order will be displayed. The Stores tab is an indication that this order can conceivably be a multi-store order. You can see our multi-store PO type right now is grayed out because we are currently set up by default as a single store order. But if I would like to order for multiple stores, it's as easy as clicking this, selecting the stores that I'm interested in, I'm now going to create a multi-store purchase order. If I go back to the Options tab, you'll see that the multi-store order type is now illuminated. I have the option of making a consolidated order, meaning that all of the parts are ordered for other stores, but when they're received, they will be received into stock in this store, or a distributed order, meaning that once the parts are received into stock in this store, they will then immediately be automatically distributed to the other stores. Let's take a look at some of the other tabs that are available. All of the stocking level order types have pretty much the same information, same tabs that we just explored for order point. Forecast changes things. With the forecast, you'll see I have a criteria tab. I can stipulate criteria, just as I can with other order types. I have the options tab with the same options, only the switches that are applicable to the forecast. But now you'll see the sales tab has come up, and I don't have a stores tab. The sales tab allows me to stipulate details on how to forecast. I can set my days to cover, select my periods, and be ready to order. But you'll notice that since there is no stores tab, I cannot create a multi-store order. All forecast purchase orders are single store orders. I can also create a replenishment purchase order. This is also known as a day fill order. You'll see when the replenishment PO is selected, I have only the criteria tab and the options tab to choose from. And the options available to me are only those that are applicable to the replenishment order. Now let's take a look at a couple of the write-in orders. We have an order type called Scan In. The Scan In, you can see that the criteria tab has gone away because now there's no more criteria or selection criteria. Instead, I can stipulate or specify what parts will be ordered, like a write-in. Only one option is available right now to scan in orders. If I click the Scan In Session tab, this grid shows up with an option to select sessions. Scan sessions will be covered in another video, but you can see that I can select any applicable session available to me, and my list of parts are brought in. These are the parts that will be ordered on this particular purchase order. Lastly, let's cover the write-in. In the write-in, you can see I have quite an extensive grid here, and I now can choose to import a file that contains a list of parts. Now this is optional. If I hit the import button, I can choose an Excel spreadsheet or a comma-separated values file or a tab-delimited file. As long as it's structured correctly, it will read the parts out of that file, and now I have my list of parts that will be ordered. When I click the order button, the order will be created. If I have no parts in here, no parts imported, I click the order, an empty write-in purchase order will be created, and I will be prompted to enter part numbers manually. The last thing that we should cover is ordering itself. Once I'm satisfied with all of the details that I've set up, I simply click the order button. The application will take the information that I provided. It'll go out and scan all of the parts in my store, find those that are eligible, and then calculate the order quantity and create my order. The purchase order screen has an awful lot of other features, and we'll be covering those features in detail in other videos specific for those types of things. So I want to thank you for joining us for this video. We look forward to seeing you in the future for other videos and details. Thank you very much.